All right, a very happy Thursday if you're in Oklahoma City, if you're in Chicago, not if you're in Toronto, and certainly not if you're in New Orleans. We are going to do a little bit of a deep dive into the Pelicans offseason. We were not going to do it at 1 o'clock in the morning last night. I needed a little bit of a refresher, but we do have the Pelicans offseason outlook on ESPN.com. All 12 teams that are started their offseason either on Monday or started their offseason on Wednesday night. You can find it there. One-stop shopping. All 12 teams are on one document. They're not 30 separate articles this year, and you can go out and read about the Pelicans. Man, where do we start? It's amazing. It's not funny, but it shows you the balancing act of becoming a championship team and then being home in the playoffs, losing in the play-in. I mean, we saw where this Pelicans team was back in December. I think it was that Phoenix little home and home, that Friday, Sunday, the Zion windmill that got Phoenix all crazy, where you can go from a championship-worthy team, top 4 team, and we were tied on my whiteboard, all their young players and how they're built for everything. Top 10 in offense, 11 games over 500. I mean, and then the injury happens on January 2nd in Philadelphia, and everything kind of comes to a crashing halt. You had a nice save towards the tail end of the year because Brandon Ingram played out of his mind, but it shows you, and I wrote about it, when Zion Williamson is on the court, this team is a team that can get out of the Western Conference, is a championship team. That's how much of his impact. I mean, if we were giving out MVPs based off how much of an impact that player has to that organization, Zion would be the runaway winner. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He would be if I had a vote, I'd vote for him. If that's what the only criteria is, if it's not just, availability. But when you look at what he can do on the court and his impact, he is a franchise player. The problem, and I don't need to tell New Orleans fans, is like availability matters in this league. Yeah, like this isn't a 17-game NFL season and you can play 10 games. I mean, with him off the court in those 46 games, 19 and 27, they ranked 26th in offensive efficiency. They were number 8 in offensive efficiency before he got injured, and they were 10 games over 500. That's a problem, especially when you have 66% of your salary tied up between Zion, and we'll go into Zion a little bit, the finances, Zion, CJ McCollum, and Brandon Ingram. That is hard. And then you take one of those guys out, and now fortunately for the Pelicans, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Jose Alvarado, who's out, Najee Marshall, they have found those players. Draft under the red. Can you imagine if they hadn't? I mean, we'd be talking about them like Houston right now. Those 4 players make $9 million next year. 9. So the Zion availability, and we can write about it and we can talk about New Orleans, and they can get off to a 20-0 start next year, and it won't matter one bit because all of a sudden a Zion injury can come up. He's unreliable from a health standpoint. I don't know if you're going to get him for 60 games, and that's a major issue here. Now, the flip side is, and I'm watching TV and I'm hearing commentators, people say, well, let's explore his trades and stuff like that. Let's just pump the brakes a little bit here. I know there's a frustration element to it. He is entering year 1 of a 5-year, $194 million max extension that he signed last offseason. There are guardrails on this contract where basically New Orleans has a get-out-of-jail-free card after 2 seasons. They can just wipe the slate clean and kind of move on. I don't see that happening right now. That's not going to happen this offseason, definitely. His contract is valuable based on all the protections that New Orleans has put in, and I've read the contract at length, whether it be games played and a weight clause. Like, it's a heavily laden, protected contract. Basically, he'll get his money the first couple years, and then everything else is protected from years 3 to 5. So there's a value contract there, but why are you moving off a value contract unless you can have that? Hey, I understand if it's a year from now and all of a sudden Zion goes through 30 games and you're like, can we do this again? Then I understand if you want to explore deals. I'm not ready to do that if I was in New Orleans, unless, of course, the mother load comes, and I don't think the mother load comes because of how this new CBA is structured. He would have if New Orleans ever put him out there, he'd have trade value just because of the contract. He wouldn't have trade value if it was 5 for 194 and everything was guaranteed. Nobody's taking that on. That's a huge risk here. And David Griffin did a great job with the contract, and Zion did a great job. Could you imagine if this is the 2023 offseason and Zion Williamson had not signed that rookie extension? I mean, the extension he signed last year would basically be on steroids. I mean, there would be I don't even know if there would be any guaranteed language. Everything would basically, maybe the first year, everything would be contingent here. So Zion controls the organization, right? As far as what the product on the court is. And you guys have seen that. You saw it in the Oklahoma City game. You saw it last year. You saw it, throughout this year. I mean, he's got to do a better job from a media standpoint. He can't be on the court doing windmills before a game, a playing game, and being ruled out. Like, you can't do that. Do that at 3:30 when there's nobody in the arena. He's got to do, because that's all we're going to be talking about. If he can do that, why can't he be in the game? So the Zion factor is basically going to loom over this organization until he can stay on the court for at least 65 games. I mean, that's the reality of it. And with him on the court, you're a championship team, and when you're not, you're a playing team at best. Now, fortunately for New Orleans, and as you can see for the rosters to build, the resources to build the roster, they have a lottery pick again to keep or to move. They picked Dyson Daniels last year, who had some nice moments this year, but is still young, and we didn't see him in that Oklahoma City game. They got all their own future ones. They've got a Laker pick in 2024 that they can defer to 25. It's unprotected. They've got a Milwaukee unprotected pick in 27. They've got swap rights in 24 and 26. I believe it's 24 and 26. I have Zion up there as a resource to build a roster, but a big question mark as far as health. They've got some tradable contracts in Valanciunas and Nance, if that's what they want to do. And then they've got value contract. They've hit a home run on guys like Murphy and Alvarado and Daniels and Herb Jones, and the list goes on of players there. They've done a nice job finding those guys in the teens and guys that have been second rounders and undrafted. That's basically what saved the bacon. And you had CJ McCollum for most of this year playing with a bum thumb, and he's going to have surgery. If you had a healthy CJ, things are a little bit different. You're probably getting ready to play. You're ready to play Denver, and you missed Ingram for a good chunk of the season here. So I get it. You get to the first round last year, you lose in a good series. You get to Phoenix, you get bounced out in the first game of the play-in. And then you go into another offseason basically with the Zion situation, the injury situation hanging over your head for another year. I mean, it's year after year here. But as I said, year one of that contract kicks in. There are major guardrails, trust me, in years 3, 4, and 5 that basically he'll get his money if he's on the roster. Like, it's not like and I've talked about it. It's not like all of a sudden $39 million is going down to 30 because he only played a certain amount of games. He will get his money if he is on this roster. The only way he doesn't is basically New Orleans would have to say, we're done. We got to move in direction. And that ain't happening because there'll still be a team out there that said, you know what? If there's no risk to us, I'll take 130 left of it. If it doesn't work out, we'll just cut the guy. So he'll be here. I would be stunned if all of a sudden we hear trade chatter here because, as I said, he's got a value contract. And as you saw, the impact he had, you're not going to go out and get another guy, Zion, and what are you going to go out and get? Draft picks, and everybody we've seen over the last couple of years, there's not many available as far as what teams have. Now, here's the hard part, the financial part of it. And this is where finances and the offseason priority, like you have to have continued buy-in from your ownership group. And when I say that, you are possibly entering the luxury tax for the first time in franchise history. And if your ownership and Mrs. Benson, you're thinking like first round, play-in loss, Ingram, McCollum, and Williamson have played 10 games together in 172 minutes, and I'm going to pay the luxury tax. And that's where the front office comes in, where you have to sell this product on where you're going. Now, if the Williamson contract was fully guaranteed, then I would be like, guys, you got to either Nance or Valanciunas, we've got to figure out how to cut some cost here. But it isn't, as I've said, and you have to sell what you saw for the first 35, 40 games of the year to your ownership group here. Now, you're not going to be able to sell a year from now if this situation continues here, but at least for this summer, you've got to sell it. You're $1.3 million above the luxury tax when you factor in your lottery pick. You can get rid of it. You can waive the Garrett Temple contract, $5.4 million, guaranteed on June 30th. You've got team options on Jones, Marshall, Willie, Heron, and Gomez. Likely you pick them up. It's at very low value. And that's your balancing act as far as staying under the luxury tax. The big thing too is, and I've said this before, we're doing a lot of these videos, and the CBA term sheet is going to come out pretty soon here. So we'll give you a better understanding as far as when are these restrictions, luxury tax wise, are going to be in play. Certainly there's going to be a rule that you can dip your toe in the luxury tax. I don't think it's going to be this off season here or 23, 24. But when we do that, we'll tell you how it could impact each team here. As far as extension candidate to watch, it would definitely be Herb Jones. He's got a team option. They'll exercise that team option because there's no risk of him becoming an unrestricted free agent the following year. He signed a 3-year deal. One of the elite defenders there. He's eligible for 4 for 71. If you decline the option, then you're going to basically blow through the luxury tax because he'll be restricted and you're going to have to pay him. So that's the extension candidate to watch. You've got a bunch. Najee Marshall's another guy. Certainly, he would be an unrestricted free agent if the option is exercised in 2024 that year. And then your team needs rim protector and shooting, man. Last in field goal percentage allowed at the rim this season, ranked second the last 2 seasons. Ranked 29th in 3-point attempts this season. 24th of percentage of points come from 3-pointers. That's something that needs to be addressed. So we went a little bit long, 13 minutes on New Orleans. As you see, the resources to build a roster behind me. I did not add Trey Murphy. He will be added on there. I apologize to him, but he is certainly a value contract moving forward here. So go on ESPN.com, read all 12 teams. By the weekend, we will have 14 lottery teams written. We will have 14 videos done, and you can find everything there. Have a great day.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.